The Way Up to Heaven. Written by Roald Dahl. All her life, Mrs. Foster was very afraid of being late. She was afraid of missing a train, a ship, or a theater show. When she thought about being late, she felt terrible fear. Because of this fear, a small muscle near her left eye started to move quickly. It looked like she was winking at someone. This movement did not stop for an hour or more, even when she was already safe on the train or plane. It was strange, but this fear was a big problem for her. Usually, 30 minutes before it was time to leave for the station, Mrs. Foster was completely ready. She wore her coat, her hat, and her gloves. She could not sit still. She walked quickly from room to room, feeling very worried. Finally, her husband came out of his room. He knew about her fear. In a cold, calm voice, he asked if it was time to go. Mr. Foster did not like this problem of his wife, but he made her suffer even more because he was always very slow. Was he doing it on purpose? It was hard to say. But every time they wanted to go somewhere, he planned everything down to the minute. He was very polite, but he made her wait and wait. It looked like a cruel game. He knew that Mrs. Foster was too polite to shout at him or tell him to hurry. He also knew that if they really missed the train, she would cry and scream. A few times in the past, it looked like he wanted to be late just to make his poor wife suffer. Mrs. Foster was a very good and loving wife. For more than 30 years, she helped her husband and took care of him. She was a kind woman. For a long time, she did not believe that Mr. Foster wanted to hurt her. But recently, she started to think differently. She began to suspect that he was doing this on purpose. Mr. Eugene Foster was about 70 years old. He lived with his wife in a big, dark, and gloomy 6-story house in New York on East 62nd Street. They had 6 servants. The house looked sad, and they almost never had any guests. But on this January morning, the house was full of noise and movement. The servants were preparing to leave. One maid was putting covers on the furniture. Another maid was helping her. The butler was carrying heavy suitcases down to the hall. The cook came out of the kitchen to talk to the butler. Mrs. Foster was ready. She wore an old-fashioned fur coat and a black hat. She ran from room to room. She tried to look busy, but she had only one scary thought in her head. She was going to miss her plane if her husband did not come out of his room right now. "What time is it, Walker?" she asked the butler. "It is 9:10, madam." "Is the car here?" "Yes, madam. It is waiting outside. I am going to take your bags now." "It takes about an hour to drive to Idlewild Airport," Mrs. Foster said. "My plane leaves at 11 o'clock. I must be there 30 minutes before that to check in. I am going to be late. I know it." "I think you have enough time, madam," the butler said kindly. "I told Mr. Foster that you must leave at 9:15. You still have 5 minutes." "Yes, Walker, I know. but please take the bags quickly." Mrs. Foster walked up and down the hall. Every time she saw the butler, she asked him about the time. She knew she could not miss this plane. For many months, she asked her husband to let her go on this trip. It was very difficult to get his permission. If she missed the plane today, he could say, "You see, you cannot go." She did not understand why he wanted to go to the airport with her. "Oh my God," she said loudly. "I am going to be late." The small muscle near her left eye was moving very fast now. There were tears in her eyes. "What time is it, Walker?" "It is 9:18, madam," Walker said. "Now I am definitely going to be late," she cried. "Oh my God, why doesn't he come out?" This trip was very important to Mrs. Foster. She was flying to Paris to visit her only daughter, who was married to a Frenchman. Mrs. Foster did not care about the husband, but she loved her daughter very much. Also, she really wanted to see her 3 grandchildren. She only knew them from many photos. These photos were in every room of her New York house. The children were beautiful, and she loved them deeply. Every time she got a new photo, she looked at it for a long time. She tried to find her family's faces in the little children. Recently, she had a secret dream. She wanted to live in Paris for the rest of her life. She wanted to be near the children, walk with them, buy them presents, and watch them grow. She knew it was wrong to think like this because she had a husband. But she also knew that Mr. Foster loved New York. He was retired now, but he would never move to Paris. It was a miracle that he allowed her to go alone for 6 whole weeks. Oh, how she wanted to stay there forever. "It is 9:22, madam," Walker said. Right after he said this, the door opened, and Mr. Foster came out into the hall. For a short moment, he stood still and looked closely at his wife. She looked at him too. He was a small, thin, but very active old man with a gray beard. His face looked like the famous old pictures of Andrew Carnegie. "Well," he said, "I think we must hurry if you don't want to miss your plane." "Yes, dear, yes. Everything is ready. The car is waiting outside." "Great," he said. He turned his head to the side and looked at her. He had a strange habit of moving his head quickly from side to side. He also liked to hold his hands high on his chest. Because of this, he looked like an old, clever squirrel from Central Park. "Eugene has your coat, dear. Please put it on." "In a minute," Mr. Foster said. "I just want to wash my hands first." Mrs. Foster stood and waited for him. Next to her, the tall old butler stood like a statue, holding the gentleman's coat and hat. "Walker, will I be late?" she asked. "No, madam," the butler answered. "I think you have time." Then Mr. Foster returned, and the butler helped him with his coat. Mrs. Foster almost ran out of the house and sat in the rented car. Her husband followed her, but he walked down the stairs very slowly. Outside, he stopped to look at the sky and breathe the morning air.
"The fog is still here," he said when he sat next to her in the car. "At the airport, the fog is always thicker. I will not be surprised if they cancel your flight." "Oh, please don't say that, dear," she said. They did not speak again for a long time. Finally, when the car was driving on the big bridge, Mr. Foster spoke. "About the servants, everything is ready," he said proudly. "From today, they all have a holiday. I paid them half of their salary for 6 weeks. I told Walker that I will send a telegram when we need them again." "Yes, dear," she said. "Walker told me." "Tonight, I am moving to my club. It will be interesting to live there for a while." "Yes, dear. I will write letters to you. Sometimes I will come back to our house," he added, "just to check if everything is okay and to get my mail." "Would it be better if Walker stayed to look after the house?" she asked quietly. "No, that is stupid. We don't need that. And we would have to pay him his full salary." "Oh, yes," she agreed. "Of course. Also, you never know what servants do when they are alone in a big house," Mr. Foster said coldly. Then he took out a cigar, cut it, and started to smoke. Mrs. Foster sat quietly. She held her hands tightly under her blanket. "Will you write to me?" she asked. "Maybe, but I don't think so," he answered. "You know I don't like to write letters without a big reason." "Yes, dear, I know. Don't worry about it." They drove along Queens Boulevard. Soon, the car arrived near Idlewild Airport. The fog was very thick there, so the driver drove very slowly. "Oh my God!" Mrs. Foster cried. "Now I am definitely late. What time is it?" "Why are you so worried?" her husband said. "It doesn't matter now. The flight is probably canceled. Look at this bad weather. I don't understand why we left the house." Mrs. Foster felt something strange in his voice. She turned to look at his face and his gray beard. She wanted to see his mouth. His eyes were always the same, cold and calm, except when he was angry. "But," he continued, "if the plane flies, you will miss it anyway. You are too late. Why don't you understand this?" She turned away and looked out the window at the thick white fog. She could only see the green grass next to the road. She felt that her husband was watching her. She looked at him again and felt a terrible fear. He was looking closely at her left eye. He was watching the small muscle move up and down. "Well?" he asked. "What?" "Why don't you understand? You are already late, even if the plane flies." After that, Mr. Foster did not speak again. The car moved very slowly. The driver used a special yellow light to see the road. Other lights came out of the thick fog and went away. Suddenly, the driver stopped the car. "Ha!" Mr. Foster said. "We are stuck! I knew it!" "No, sir," the driver said. "We are here. This is the airport." Mrs. Foster did not say a word. She jumped out of the car and ran into the airport building. There were many people inside. Most of them looked very sad and were standing near the check-in desk. She walked through the crowd and spoke to the airport clerk. "Yes," the clerk said. Your flight is delayed because of the fog, but please stay here. The weather can change at any minute." She ran back to the car to tell her husband the news.
"You don't need to wait for me, dear," she said.
"I will not wait," he answered quickly. "Driver, can you take me back to the city?" "Yes, sir," the driver said. "Are the suitcases out?" "Yes, sir." "Goodbye, dear," Mrs. Foster said. She leaned down and kissed his cheek. "Goodbye," he said. "Have a good trip." The rest of that day was like a terrible dream. Mrs. Foster sat on a bench near the check-in desk. Every 30 minutes, she stood up and asked the clerk about the flight. But the clerk always said the same thing. "The fog can go away soon. Please wait." Hours passed. Finally, at 6 o'clock in the evening, a loudspeaker announced, "The flight is postponed until 11 o'clock tomorrow morning." Mrs. Foster was completely lost. She sat on the bench for another 30 minutes. She was very tired and did not know where to sleep tonight. She did not want to leave the airport. She was afraid to see her husband again. She was afraid that he would find a way to stop her trip to France. She wanted to stay on the bench all night. But she was old and weak, and she understood that it was too difficult. So she decided to call home. Her husband answered the phone immediately. He was still at home and not at his club yet. She told him the bad news and asked if the servants were still there. "Nobody is here," he answered. "Then, dear, I will go to a hotel. Don't worry about me." "That is stupid," he said. "You have a big house. Use it." "But, dear, it is completely empty." "Well, I can stay with you tonight." "But there is no food in the house, not a piece of bread." "Eat dinner before you come back. Don't be silly, woman. You always make a big problem out of everything." "Okay," she said quietly. "I am sorry. I will eat a sandwich and then come home." The fog was better now, but the way back was long and tiring. When Mrs. Foster finally arrived at her house on East 62nd Street, it was very late. Her husband heard her and came out of his room. "Well," he said, standing in the doorway, "how is Paris?" "We fly at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning," she said. "That is definite." "Don't be so sure. The fog is still outside." "It is going away. The wind is starting to blow." "You look very tired," he said. "It was a difficult day for you." "Yes, it was not easy. I think I must go to sleep." "I ordered the car for 9 o'clock tomorrow morning," he said. "Oh, thank you, dear. I hope you will stay at home tomorrow. You don't need to go to the airport with me again." "No," he said. "I think I will not go to the airport. But can you drop me off at my club on your way?" She looked at him. Suddenly, she felt that he was very far away from him. It was like a wall between them. He looked small, and she did not understand him anymore. She didn't know what he was thinking or who he really was. "But your club is in the city center," she said. "It is not on the way to the airport." "You will have enough time, dear," he answered.
Don't you want to take your husband to his club? Oh, yes, of course. Great. Then see you in the morning at 9 o'clock. She went up to her bedroom on the 3rd floor. She was so tired that she fell asleep immediately when her head touched the pillow. The next morning, Mrs. Foster woke up very early. At 8:30, she was completely ready to leave. A few minutes after 9 o'clock, her husband came down.
"Did you make coffee?" he asked. "No, dear. I thought you wanted to have breakfast at your club. The car is already here. It is waiting for us. I am ready to go." They stood in the hall. Recently, they always met only there. She was ready, wearing her hat and her coat. He wore a very old-fashioned suit.
"What about your bags?" he asked. "They are at the airport." "Ah," he said. "Yes, of course. Well, if you want to drop me off at my club, it is time to go, right?"
"Yes," she cried. "Oh, please, let's go."
"I am going to get 2 cigars," Mr. Foster said. "Go to the car. I will catch up with you."
She walked outside, where the driver was waiting. He opened the car door for her. "What time is it?" she asked. "It is almost 9:15, madam." Mr. Foster came out 5 minutes later. She watched him walk down the stairs very slowly. Like the day before, he stopped halfway to the car. He wanted to look at the sky and breathe the morning air. The weather was still bad, but a little bit of sunlight came through the thick fog. "Please hurry," Mrs. Foster said to the driver. "Don't worry about the blanket. I can do it myself. Just start the car, please. I am going to be late." The driver sat behind the wheel and started the engine. "Wait a minute," Mr. Foster suddenly said. He hit his forehead with his hand. "Driver, please stop."
"What is the matter, dear?" Mrs. Foster asked.
She saw that he was searching the pockets of his coat. "I have a small present for our daughter Ellen," he explained. "Where is it? I am sure I had it in my hand when I came out." "I didn't see anything in your hand," she said. "What kind of present?" "A small box in white paper. I forgot to give it to you yesterday, but I must give it to you today."
"A small box?" Mrs. Foster cried. "I didn't see any box." She started to search the car seat quickly with her hands. Her husband continued to look in his coat pockets. Then he opened his coat and searched his jacket pockets too. "Damn it," he said. "I probably left it in the bedroom. I will be back in a minute." "Oh, please," she cried. "We don't have time. Please don't go. We can send it by mail. Is it another box of old combs? You always give her combs."
"What is wrong with combs?" he asked angrily. He did not like her voice.
"Oh, nothing, dear, nothing. But stay here," he ordered. "I will go and get it. Just be quick, dear. Please be quick."
She sat quietly and waited and waited. "Driver, what time is it?" The driver looked at his watch. "It is 9:30. "Can we drive to the airport in an hour?" "Maybe." And then, suddenly, Mrs. Foster saw a small corner of white paper.
It was between the seat and the back of the car, exactly where her husband sat. She used her hand and pulled out a small box in white paper. She understood that the box was deep in the seat because someone pushed it there with a lot of force. "Here it is!" Mrs. Foster cried. "I found it! Oh my God, now he will look for it upstairs forever! Driver, please run and call him." The driver didn't care much, but he got out of the car and walked up the stairs to the front door. Then he came back to the car. "The front door is locked," he said. "Do you have the key?" "Yes. Wait a minute." She started to search her bag quickly. Her face looked strange, and her mouth was tight. "I found it." "No, I will go myself. It is faster. I know where he is." The woman jumped out of the car and ran up the stairs to the door with the key in her hand. She put the key into the lock, but suddenly she stopped. She did not turn the key. She stood completely still, like a statue. She was listening. 5, 10 seconds passed, but she did not move. Her head was up, and she was listening to a sound from inside the house. Yes, there was no doubt she was listening. She put her ear closer and closer to the front door. She pressed her ear against the wood. For a few seconds, she stayed in this position. Her ear was on the door. Her hand was on the key. She did not go inside. She only wanted to hear that quiet sound from the house. Then, suddenly, she started to move again. She pulled the key out of the lock and ran down the stairs. "It is very late," she shouted to the driver. "We cannot wait for him any more. I don't have time. I will miss my plane. Quick, driver, quick, to the airport." If the driver looked at her closely, he could see a big change. Her face was white. She didn't look like a weak or silly woman anymore. Now she looked very confident and strong. Her mouth was tight, her eyes were bright, and her voice was powerful. "Hurry, driver, hurry!" "But isn't your husband coming with you?" the driver asked in surprise. "Of course not. I only wanted to drop him off at his club. He decided to take a taxi later. Drive on." "He will understand everything and take a taxi. Don't sit and talk, boy. Go! I must catch my plane to Paris." From the back seat, Mrs. Foster told the driver to go faster and faster. Because of his quick driving, she arrived at the airport just a few minutes before the flight. Soon, she was high above the Atlantic Ocean. She sat comfortably in her seat and listened to the plane engine. Finally, she was going to Paris. She felt completely different now. She felt very strong and happy. As the plane flew further and further away from New York and East 62nd Street, she became calmer. When the plane landed in Paris, she was a strong and confident woman. Mrs. Foster met her daughter and her grandchildren. The children were even more beautiful than in the photos. They are like angels, she thought. Every day, she walked with them, bought them cakes and presents, and told them interesting stories. Once a week, on Tuesday, she wrote a long and beautiful letter to her husband. She told him all the news. At the end of every letter, she always wrote, Please remember to eat well, my dear. I am sure you don't eat properly when I am not at home."
6 weeks passed very quickly. Everyone was very sad because she had to return to her husband in America. Everyone except Mrs. Foster. Surprisingly, she was ready to go. When she kissed her family goodbye, she said something interesting. She whispered that she was going to come back to Paris very soon. Mrs. Foster was a good wife, so she stayed in Paris exactly for 6 weeks, just like her husband allowed. Then she sent him a telegram and flew back to New York. When she arrived at Idlewild Airport, there was no car to meet her. She was a little surprised, but she stayed very calm. She took a taxi and drove to her house on East 62nd Street. The driver helped her with 2 heavy suitcases. She paid him, and he left. Mrs. Foster pushed the doorbell. She waited, but nobody opened the door. She pushed the bell again. She heard the loud sound of the bell from the back of the house, but the house was silent. Then she took out her key and opened the front door. Inside, the house was dark and very cold. The first thing she saw was a huge pile of letters on the floor under the door. The mailbox was completely full. The big clock in the hall had a cover on it. The air was bad, and there was a strange, unusual smell in the house. Mrs. Foster walked quickly across the hall and went around the corner to the left. She walked like a person who knew exactly what she was looking for. A few seconds later, she came back. There was a small, happy light in her eyes. She stood in the middle of the hall for a moment. Then she walked into her husband's office. She found a small notebook on his desk, looked for a phone number, and made a call. "Hello," she said into the phone. "This is Mrs. Foster from East 62nd Street. Can you send someone to my house immediately? Yes, the elevator is stuck. The cabin is between the 2nd and the 3rd floor. The indicator shows it. Can you come now? Oh, thank you. That is very kind of you. I am old, and it is too difficult for me to walk up and down the stairs. Thank you very much. Goodbye." She put down the phone. Then she sat at her husband's desk, waiting patiently for the mechanic to come and fix the elevator.